My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
James Bond movies have always been filled with action, intrigue, and romance. But few Bond films have left as lasting an impression as Goldfinger. It had everything: a megalomaniacal villain, a plot to destroy Fort Knox, the ultimate spy car, and of course Pussy Galore, played by the unforgettable Honor Blackman. She was a Bond girl unlike any before her, smart, independent, and not just another damsel in distress. But what makes her story even more intriguing is what happened off-screen. At first, she admitted to being quite taken with Sean Connery, but years later, she publicly criticized him. What changed? Let's dive into the fascinating behind-the-scenes story of Goldfinger and the complex relationship between its two stars. By 1964, James Bond was already a cinematic phenomenon. After Dr. No and From Russia with Love, the franchise reached a whole new level of success with Goldfinger. The third Bond film starred Sean Connery as 007, Gert Frobe as the gold-obsessed villain Auric Goldfinger, and Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore, arguably one of the most memorable Bond girls of all time. The film was based on Ian Fleming's 1959 novel and was the first Bond film to truly establish the franchise's signature style: high-tech gadgets, a pre-credit action sequence, and a larger-than-life villain with an outrageous scheme. It was so popular that some theaters screened it 24 hours a day just to keep up with demand. One of the film's most iconic moments comes early on when Bond discovers Jill Masterson, played by Shirley Eaton, dead, completely covered in gold paint. The shocking visual became legendary, even gracing the cover of Life magazine. Interestingly, the myth that Eaton died from suffocation during filming spread widely, but it was entirely false. However, the makeup process was still grueling, requiring her to be painted in gold while leaving a small patch of skin unpainted to prevent overheating. The movie's production was filled with challenges and creative solutions. For instance, despite Bond appearing in the US for much of the film, Sean Connery never actually traveled to America. Every scene where Bond appears in the States was shot at Pinewood Studios in England, including the famous scene where he discovers Jill's golden corpse. Eagle-eyed viewers have noticed a small giveaway. When Bond enters the room, he flips a light switch downward the way British switches work instead of upward, as in the US. Goldfinger was also groundbreaking for its use of technology. Bond's Aston Martin DB5, loaded with gadgets, became one of the most famous movie cars of all time. It featured rotating license plates, a bulletproof shield, machine guns, and, most impressively, an ejector seat. The film's impact on the automotive world was enormous, with sales of the DB5 skyrocketing. Interestingly, Aston Martin was initially reluctant to supply cars for the film and charged the production for them. After Goldfinger's massive success, the company never charged for a Bond car again. However, the film's production wasn't all smooth sailing. Sean Connery injured his back during a fight scene with Harold Sakata, who played the deadly Oddjob. Some believe Connery used the injury as leverage to negotiate a better deal for his next Bond film. Sakata himself also suffered during filming. In the scene where Oddjob is electrocuted, he held onto his hat so tightly, despite the extreme heat of the special effects, that he sustained serious burns on his hand before the director called cut. The production team also faced challenges in recreating Fort Knox, as no one was allowed inside the real facility. Set designer Ken Adam relied on pure imagination to create the massive vault filled with gold bars, which was so convincing that a 24-hour security guard had to be stationed on set to prevent theft. The real Fort Knox even sent the production team a letter congratulating them on the accuracy of their fake vault. And then, of course, there was Pussy Galore. Honor Blackman was already a star thanks to her role as Kathy Gale in The Avengers, where she showcased her judo skills. something the filmmakers incorporated into her Bond role. Pussy Galore wasn't just a beautiful sidekick. She was a skilled pilot and a leader in her own right, heading an all-female flying circus. However, not all of her pilots were actually women. Some of them were played by men in wigs to fill out the numbers. Her name, however, pushed the limits of censorship. In the U.S., marketing materials avoided using her full name, referring to her simply as Miss Galore. Blackman, however, delighted in saying the name during interviews just to see people's reactions. Originally, Bond's response to Pussy's introduction was scripted as, "I know you are, but what's your name?" This was deemed too suggestive, so it was changed to the now iconic, "I must be dreaming." Off-screen, Blackman initially had nothing but praise for Sean Connery. She admitted, "Of course I fancied Sean. He was the sexiest man I've ever met." She even went as far as saying, "If I hadn't been married, I would have gone there." Connery at the time was at his peak, charming, physically fit, and already an international heartthrob. But over the years, Blackman's admiration soured. While she had once been enamored with Connery's looks and charisma, she later criticized him for accepting a knighthood from Britain while living in the Bahamas and avoiding UK taxes. She called him a hypocrite, saying, "He wants it both ways. I don't think his principles are very high." Unlike Connery, Blackman turned down a CBE commander of the British Empire because she felt she didn't need the government's approval for her accomplishments. Beyond her feud with Connery, Blackman continued to have a long and varied career. She starred alongside him again in Shalako, 1968, and appeared in numerous films and TV shows throughout the decades. She was known for her strong opinions, once remarking, "Most Bond girls have been bimbos. I have never been a bimbo." And indeed, Pussy Galore was anything but. Despite the drama, Goldfinger remains a defining moment in James Bond history. It set the standard for all future Bond films, introduced one of the most famous villains, and solidified Connery as the ultimate 007. The Aston Martin DB5 became legendary, and Shirley Bassey's powerful title song set the bar for Bond theme songs to come. Bassey herself nearly passed out while recording the final high note of the theme song because she had to hold it longer than expected to match the visuals. Even director Steven Spielberg has cited Goldfinger as his favorite Bond film, saying it inspired him to buy an Aston Martin DB5. The film's success was undeniable. It broke box office records and became the fastest grossing movie of its time, earning a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think of Goldfinger? Do you believe Honor Blackman was right about Sean Connery, or do you think she was too harsh? Let me know in the comments.